hello. Happy Thursday. I had to think about that for a little bit. Happy Thursday to you. I hope that the week has been going incredibly well for you. I know for me, it has been a great week. This morning, as I was thinking about preparing to come on the mic today and preparing what I would say and just reflecting on the last days that I've been able to show up and share, I was just overwhelmed with this sense of gratefulness for being able to do this. And I just kept saying to myself, I get to do this. There's so many people who have a desire to lean into the things that would provide them more fulfillment and would provide them more satisfaction. But instead, they find themselves in this perpetual state of discouragement, disappointment, and even disillusionment that leads to a disconnection. And I feel so connected to what I do. I feel so energized by what I do. Um, and I just kept reflecting and thinking, I get to do this. And I used to think that giving myself permission was really about proving I could do something. But now I am starting to realize that I get to do something. And that shift, even though it seems very subtle, but that shift is about moving from the ability to really the privilege. And as I let those thoughts rest and land with me and really settle into a perspective of gratitude, I will tell you, moving and shifting from ability to privilege has truly changed everything for me. And I am showing up to point to the direction where you can get that for yourself. Especially if you have achieved and you have had the opportunity to experience success at great levels, and you know that everything you're sitting on and everything that you've accomplished is significant in value. This is an opportunity to really position yourself to get beyond the skills that really drive your success and step into the significance that you can really broaden and evolve and become. And so when you start thinking of the notion, I can, it really rests in your abilities and your skills. But I'm promised when you get to the point where you can reflect and settle into, I get to, you can move forward with opportunity. You can move forward in what it is you're called to do. And you can take the skills and responsibility as well as the influence that you have and use them in a very responsible way. And so, it's been a number of years now, and I'm a few years removed away from the initial nudge that I felt to transcend success and be significant. And for me, significance is all about how do I help other people accomplish the things that they are called to do. So I'm a few years away from it, but that still woos me to this day. Every time I have leaned into this whole perspective of what I get to do, I have stepped more into alignment with who I am, the impact I want to make, the change I want to experience and drive. I have stepped more into the ownership and the value of ownership. And while I wish I would have gotten it sooner, I'm so grateful that I have it now. And on top of all of that, on top of feeling completely aligned with what I do and feeling completely empowered with ownership, I have to say that I have also had this privilege of stepping into joy. And I have joy that just permeates everything that I am building. And so it isn't for me just about permission anymore. It really is about stewardship for me. It's about stewardship of the gifts and the power and all of the assets, like the influence and the creativity and my abilities and just all of the things that are in my hands. And I want to steward those things in the most empowering way for other people to step into their greatness, to step into their callings. And so as I got on, I was sitting here waiting for the time to tick to 12 noon so that I could click go live. And I was just overcome with this sense of great appreciation because I get to do this live stream. I was overcome with a sense of gratitude because I get to host an amazing experience. And as things and details and all of the fine finishes are starting to finalize, and I see the vision of it coming together, and I step back from it and realize how I'm really going to be setting these incredible women up for such great success. I get to accelerate. I get to accelerate my client's success. And so behind all of that is this fulfillment that I get, this satisfaction that I get because I was willing to evolve into the woman that I sensed I was called to become. Not necessarily so that my name could be in lights, but that I could make a difference. I can make a huge difference in not only building a legacy for myself, but empowering other women to do the same. And so today, as I share with you how you can give yourself permission to step into being a good steward, if you will, where stewardship is about a good overseer, a good manager, a good visionary, a good empowerer. As I really, as I really share how you can give yourself permission to do that, I want you to really embrace the concept that there's so much power, so much gift, so much talent and ability in your hands. And there are other people who are waiting for you, like literally waiting for you, waiting for the solutions that you're going to bring to the marketplace, waiting for your voice to be raised so that they can understand how to move forward. There's so much that's waiting on you. Real life people, real life voices. And I want to encourage you today to give yourself permission. And so this desire that you sense within yourself, I know exactly how that feels when you're at that crossroads, that professional crossroads, and you know you don't want to start over. You've done and achieved way too much to start over, but you want to figure out how to continue your success in the most impactful way. You have to really give yourself permission to want more. And I guess what I want to anchor in on today is really helping you understand that you are allowed to, right? You are allowed to want more than what you've already achieved. And it doesn't matter how much success you have accomplished, you are allowed to go for more. And as I talk about this, I think about Beyonce, and I think about all of the incredible success she has had, but she has not rested on her laurels. There's other things that she wants to experience and accomplish, and it didn't matter what other people's opinions were about it. She was willing to allow herself to lean into that. And if we could take a note, if from, the book of Beyonce, I would say, we have the opportunity to do that in our zone of genius. We have the opportunity to show up just as fiercely for the things that we have been called to do. And we can do that. We are allowed to want more than what we already have, than what we've already achieved. And we can do that without the burden of guilt, without feeling like we have to apologize, and without carrying fear with us as we do it. And fear, the old acronym is false evidence appearing real, but even if it may be false, we feel it in our body and it can paralyze us. And so what we have to understand is you don't have to overpower it with your will. You just need to give yourself permission to proceed. And it dissipates. What I have found in my journey, because I've had so many points and so many milestones throughout this journey where fear was present, but it didn't rule. And so, what I want to talk about today is confronting and releasing these notions of guilt that makes us hold back, confronting and releasing this notion of fear that keeps us paralyzed, confronting and releasing the self doubt that can creep in when you start desiring more freedom, when you start desiring more impact, when you start desiring more alignment than what your current success provides. There is something you can do about it. And I want you to know that wanting more doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you ready. And I want you to receive that, because a lot of times when we want more, we start examining what may be at risk, or we examine what we already have. We look at what we have achieved and we start saying, I should be grateful for what I ask, what I have. But what I want you to recognize is wanting more doesn't make you ungrateful. It is an indication that you are ready to accelerate to your next level, ready to achieve a new mark, ready to make a difference and impact in a way that you haven't seen yet. And so I want to do some disruption. I want to disrupt these perspectives that says we should feel a little bit guilty when we are in a position where we have success, but we desire more. I want to disrupt perspectives around feeling like you have to apologize because you want to pursue and go for what it is that you feel like you're called to do. I want to disrupt the fear. So why does guilt set in? Like, you would think that the ambition that we have, that our desire for success, that the track record that we've proven ourselves to be able to accomplish and do should say we are ready for that next level. But as soon as we start dreaming about it, for some odd reason, guilt starts to set in. And I think a little bit of it is because we've been taught, whether it's been explicitly or subtly, we've been taught that wanting more is greedy. For some reason, we have been taught that. Be grateful for what you have. We've all heard that. And certainly we do want to have gratitude. But the flip side of that creates this perspective that wanting more is greedy, or selfish, that wanting more is selfish when you have something that's good already. This conditioning makes our ambition feels like ingratitude, when in fact it's not that at all. Our ambition is not ingratitude. Our ambition is really a calling to your next level. It's an indication that you're ready to proceed. But because we operate, or have been operating, under this perspective of count your blessings, as if the number we count is the limitation that there is, we limit ourselves. And we refuse to step in and explore the next chapters of what will be. So we have this perspective where we're conditioned. We're conditioned to be grateful. We're conditioned to live with this limitation because I have to count the blessings that I have. But I have combed the Bible. I don't know about you. And it didn't say that your blessing limit is this. I see words like exceedingly, abundantly, above all. I see these superlative words that tells me no matter where I am, I can go for more. And so I want to disrupt this notion that you have to feel guilty when you have this desire to go for more, or that you have to limit it because you need to count your blessings. I want you to recognize that your ambition is an invitation to explore your next chapter. The other thing that's really interesting that kind of triggers guilt to settle in is, many others would love to have what you have. That's like a famous line from a song that I love, where it basically says somebody else would love to be in your shoes. And that's absolutely okay. And just because you love to be in my shoes doesn't mean I have to continue to wear this same pair of shoes all of the time. I can proceed to new levels. I can set new marks. I can go for more. And so, even though there are others who would love your salary, even though there are others who would love your title, in fact, even though there are others who would love the stability that you have, that doesn't mean that you have to abandon opportunity that's presented to you. And so what starts to happen is we start to develop this guilt where we feel like leaving the privilege that we have, or leaving the experience we've been blessed with, or leaving the benefits that we live with means that it's letting someone else down. It's letting them down because if they had the opportunity to have it, surely they would love it. And I will say to you that you cannot judge your journey by someone else's journey. Your role, your race is yours. What you are called to pursue is something you'll be held accountable to. And so if greatness is beckoning the inside of you, then you have to meet it with the diligence to go for it, because you get to. You get to go for it. And while others may be willing to take the hand that you have, it doesn't mean that their willingness to do that says that you have to hold on to that hand forever, that you have to walk in those shoes forever simply because someone else would appreciate them. Your ambition is an invitation to explore your next chapter. And so what I want to disrupt this whole sense that you should feel guilty, or the guilt that sets in when you have a desire for more. It's healthy to want more. It's healthy to have a desire to achieve, regardless of who would be grateful to experience what you have. The second perspective that I want to disrupt today is this need that we have to apologize. This is people-pleasing programming. This need that we have to apologize, like we owe this in debt, like we owe this debt to someone, and therefore we can't move forward without acknowledging that somebody else doesn't have the same opportunity as us. And so for decades, this corporate culture rewards being agreeable. The corporate culture rewards being accommodating. It rewards this team first perspective. And I have said many times throughout this, I am not a corporate basher. Corporate has been good to me. My success is sound. I learned so many incredible things that I have evolved beyond, but are foundational to what I have been able to see myself achieve. And so the culture of being in corporate says, get along, agree, accommodate, team first. And when you're saying that you want something different, it feels selfish. And so it softens it. You soften it with apologies. You soften your desire. You soften your confidence. You soften your courage by apologizing. And that is this people-pleasing programming. And it's permeated throughout the experience of being in corporate because we all want to get along there. We're all working to this goal there. And as a result of working towards the goal, we don't want to disrupt things. And when it seems that we are, it feels selfish and we feel compelled to apologize. The second thing that's interesting is we want to avoid making other people uncomfortable. And so when we have this perspective that our ambition might challenge someone else's comfort zone or make them question their own choices, we start to use that to criticize ourselves or to preempt the criticism that may come from them. So we'll either say, well, maybe I shouldn't because of what will they think? Right? Or maybe we'll try to throw things out there to soften how things will land because of the shine that's going to come as a result of what we'll show up and do. And these perspectives, they can be conditioned certainly by corporate culture, which is one of the things that is true, but they also can be a result of your upbringing. You know, it could have been that you needed to take other people's feelings into consideration. And so you just kind of don't upset the apple cart. You told the line because you want to avoid making other people uncomfortable. But what I want to say to you is that you don't owe an apology for what you're called to do. You don't owe an apology for that. In fact, you owe it diligence and responsibility. You owe it stewardship, not apology. And then the last thing I want to disrupt is the fact that when we have this notion for more, it starts to signal fear. And as I said before, all of the sensories that happen within us, we want those to be there because they give us a great indication of pause and alarm. But when it signals fear, it makes us shrink. We start to shrink the vision. We start to adjust the goals to be more reasonable. We start to adjust our vision to feel more safe, less risky, so that you don't risk failing publicly. The other thing is we start looking for validation from other people, whether it's those that have leadership responsibility over us or mentors or peers. We start looking for validation. I see that a lot in some of the coaching containers that I am in, where they're looking for the coach to validate them. Your calling is whole and complete. It's all the validation you need. And that doesn't mean that you don't want to have some perspective to weigh in on choices and decisions, but you don't need to look for validation. You're not seeking permission from them. But when you're stepping forward and you feel like this is a thing that you are uncertain about, it feels risky. And so you start looking for other people to cue you in on your calling. And that's fear starting to rise within you. And the fear is rising because you're doing something new. I remember the first time that I went roller skating, I was doing something new. I was a little fearful. I remember a few months ago when I did water aerobics in the deep end for the first time, I was a little fearful. I was doing something new. But I had to assert my own confidence and courage above the fear I sensed so that I could experience something new for myself. And the other thing that signals fear is this: you researching too much. Like you are over planning, you're over preparing, you're over researching. And the more you get into it, the more you are actually overwhelming yourself when you think you're informing yourself. You're telling yourself you're getting ready when you're actually avoiding starting. And so you stay in this perpetual state of thinking that you're not ready, and that's queuing up fear. So when we peel back the layers, the fear that shows up when we start wanting more isn't just about the change. It's about what the change starts to threaten. And threaten is a very strong word, but it only comes as a result of you needing to prepare yourself for what's going to evolve. It's not going to stay the same. And so what gets threatened is the comfort that you have because change is being introduced. Change in your identity, change in your stability, and even change in your relationships. So when we go deeper, and I started to ask myself, what is the fear? Like, what is it? Can we name it? Because I sometimes think if we can name it, you can start to sniff it out faster and you can begin to disrupt it for yourself because you'll be able to know what it actually is. And so one of the fears is the fear of losing this proven identity that you have. You see, in corporate, you have been rewarded for being a certain type of professional. You've been rewarded for being dependable. You've been rewarded for being excellent. You're being rewarded for being promotable. So the deeper fear is if I step away from this role that made me a success, who will I be? Who will I be? If I step away from this office, if I step away from this title, if I step away from this recognition, if I step away from this responsibility, who will I be? And so what's really going on when we are facing this fear of losing our proven identity is we're afraid of losing the credibility and the certainty that our current career gives us. Even though part of you already knows that credibility was actually built by you, not the title. Not the title. So what's really going on is you're afraid of the loss of everything that you built. And the most valuable thing to you is not the office, it's not the title, it's your credibility. And I will tell you that is one of the biggest assets that you get to take with you when you go. Your credibility is absolutely intact. The second fear that is usually underneath is the fear of abandoning security. Corporate life offers predictable paychecks, amen, defined benefits, amen, and clear next steps. There's an org structure. You know that if you perform well at this level, this next level is intact. You know, if you perform here, this next responsibility will come. And entrepreneurship doesn't have that. It doesn't have those predictable paychecks. It doesn't have those defined benefits. It feels looser. It's like living on faith in a way that you never imagined. Even though you're living on faith right now with your job, you're living on faith. You hoping that you're going to go in tomorrow and everything is going to be okay. So you're living on faith, but there's this sense of security that you have with it and that you don't get with entrepreneurship. So the deeper fear is, what if I can't recreate the stability I have now? You see, the fear isn't just about money. Let's be real. It's about losing the emotional safety net of knowing what's next and when. It's not just about money. It's that emotional safety net that you feel like you're going to lose. The next fear is the fear of disappointing or alienating others. You see, wanting more, as I've already shared, can disrupt the expectations of other people who depend on you, people like your colleagues or your family and friends. It'll disrupt that expectation of who have they always known you as. Always known you in that role, always known you functioning that way. And so this fear of disappointing or alienating them is really about, if I grow beyond this, I might lose connection. I might lose respect from people who matter to me, especially if it's publicly not going as well as I would hope. And what's really going on is the tension between loyalty to yourself and loyalty to others, and the subconscious belief that you can't serve both. Ooh, that is so good. There's this unconscious belief that you can't be loyal to you and everyone else too. And so you have this fear of disappointing because of what you're called to do. The next fear is the fear of visible failure. You see, in corporate, you can fail privately inside a team. There may be some little, safe space with people you work with, but it's not just this public thing that everyone gets to see. But as an entrepreneur, the wins and losses are all attached to you. They're attached to your name. And so when you're thinking about this corporate to entrepreneur journey, one of the deeper fears that you sense is, if I fail, I lose my reputation. I'll lose my confidence, and I'll lose the proof that I'm capable. Your ability, credibility is safe, sound, and intact. You are proven. You're a proven resource. You are a proven individual. And so when you're dealing with this fear, what's really going on is you're equating a business result with your personal worth instead of seeing them separate. You're equating the result that you can drive as an indication of who you are. One of the things we often see is people equate their value to how much they make. In this particular case, you're going to equate your business result to mean something about you. And then finally, the last fear that we're struggling with is the fear of outgrowing old you. You see, saying yes to being an entrepreneur, when you say yes to that, you're saying yes to becoming someone you've never been before. And I know that that's true. You see, I've never been an entrepreneur in the way that I'm an entrepreneur now. And I remember when I first stepped into it, it was almost like learning new language. I didn't know how to introduce myself. I didn't know how to say what I did. I didn't know how to represent any of that because it was all completely new. It's an identity that I had never had before. And the deeper fear underneath all of that is I'm not sure I'll recognize myself. I'm not sure I will like who I will become. When you're at the starting blocks, you're uncertain about so many different things. And this fear of outgrowing the old you who is able to command the respect, the old you who could take over the meeting and drive the results, the old you were fearful of losing that person to who you would become. And that person you're becoming is unknown. So you're sensing the magnitude of personal transformation required. And that unknown feels risky, even if it's exciting. And so I just want to offer you these truths. There's 3 truths that I want to tell you that I believe if you step into them, they can help to disrupt this whole notion of feeling guilty. They can help to disrupt this whole perspective of apologizing. They can help to disrupt all of those fears that we went deeper into, that I wanted to help you be able to name so that you can recognize them. So the first truth is this: wanting more, the aspect of more, doesn't mean you're ungrateful. Hear me. It does not mean you're ungrateful. You can deeply appreciate the opportunities you have had and still crave a different chapter. For some reason, we act as though the second half of that erases the first. We act as though craving a different chapter means that I don't appreciate the opportunities that I had. And I want you to know that those things can coexist. You can deeply appreciate the opportunities you've had, and you can still crave a different chapter. Gratitude and growth are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist. So this is something that's great news for the executive that loves her career, but still dreams of launching a purpose-led business. I know it was great news for me. And that's one of the reasons why I don't bash my prior corporate experience. Corporate was good to me. And I deeply appreciate every single opportunity, every relationship, every support, every leader that helped to drive out my success throughout my entire career. I am grateful. But that gratitude doesn't mean I don't still crave more. It doesn't disrupt or erase my ambition. Growth still has a place. And so just wanting more doesn't mean you're ungrateful. Those 2 things, gratitude and growth, can coexist. So let that truth resonate. The second truth I want to give you is that your ambition is not a liability. For high achievers, wanting more is a natural extension of who you are. It is not a liability. So suppressing it will always lead to stagnation. If you suppress your ambition, you will stagnate. Your ambition is a healthy attribute of you. It needs to be alive. You know, I one of the things I said in a conversation that I had last night with a very dear friend is I cautioned her on her journey of forcing herself to try to stay in one particular mode. You know, when I first started in my entrepreneurial journey, I used to just feel so bad every time I could sense that I was being drawn into something new, something different. And I thought to myself, I don't want to pivot again. I don't want to make a shift. I don't want to start talking about something new when I now recognize that those things were needed of me. That evolution was necessary for me. And so the way that I said it to her last night, because she's very, very early on in her corporate to entrepreneur shift, is I told her to be willing to allow it to evolve, to actually embrace the evolution. And it's because of this reason right here. Our ambition is not a liability. It is something that is natural. It's a natural extension of who we are. It will call you to your next level. It will indicate invitation for you. And when you refuse the invitation that this evolving journey is calling you on, you will stagnate. You will stall out. The next truth I want you to embrace is that freedom is a legitimate goal. It's legitimate. Not every move is about money. Not every desire for more is about income. Not everything is tied to how much more can I make. Sometimes freedom looks like more time. Sometimes freedom looks like more creativity. Sometimes freedom looks like more control over your schedule and life. Now, while I say it doesn't look like more, it doesn't mean that, while I say it doesn't look like more money doesn't mean that it's not a play of that, right? So let me say that again, because I said it kind of confusing. But because I am saying that freedom is a legitimate goal, doesn't mean that desire for money goes away. You absolutely can maintain your expectation for money. In fact, I help you prioritize doing that. You want to make impact and income. But the more, let's talk about the more. You may say, I want to make this shift as an extension of my current success, but I'm drawn to it because I want to own more of my time. I'm drawn to it because I want to own more of my creativity. I'm drawn to it because I want to own more control of my schedule and life. None of those things were about money. So freedom is a legitimate goal, but it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice money. Money is a valuable aspect that still remains on the table. And so I want to tell you why this matters to the people that I work with. What I have found is high achieving women who have built significant careers often feel guilt about wanting something else. Because from the outside, they look like they have it all. But here's the thing that is the bottom line truth. The more aligned your next chapter is to your purpose, the more impact will multiply for you. The more aligned your next chapter is connected to your purpose, connected to who you're called to be, the more impact will multiply for you. Your impact will multiply to those exceeding levels of anything you've ever imagined when you lean into what it is you feel like you're being called to do. And so you have to begin to understand that even though you have built a significant career, feeling guilty about wanting more is not something that is setting you up for success. It's actually holding you back from being more aligned with that call. So here's what I want you to know about giving yourself permission. The first thing I want you to know is the old success doesn't feel like a win for you anymore. If that's true for you, then you need to give yourself permission. If your gifts are underutilized or being misused, that's usually an indication that you have more capacity, more creativity, more leadership than your current role requires. And that is an indication that you need to consider extending your success beyond where you are And that's an indication that you need to give yourself permission to lean into more. If you keep imagining another way to work or live, the vision of flexibility, the vision of impact, the vision of creating something of your own, if it just won't leave you alone, then that is truly an indication that you may need to give yourself permission to want more. And finally, if the fear that you feel actually feels like more energy than warning, then that is a clear indication that you are ready for more. And so, what I want to invite you to do, I want to invite you to get in a space that's headed in the direction that you want to go. And I made a very powerful decision today. I am going to cut off the pre-sale rate at the end of this month. At the end of this month, the pre-sale rate will go away. So the pre-sale rate for Corporate to Entrepreneur Live, which is the room you want to get in, the room that's headed in the direction you want to go, the room where you'll be able to name what that more looks like for you, the room where you'll be able to untangle your desire from guilt and fear, where the clarity will begin to set in for you, where you will map out a plan to strategically go after the thing that you're called to do. Corporate to Entrepreneur Live is in pre-sale right now. It is a 2-day experience, October 25th and 26th, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I will be hosting an incredible experience for the woman who will join. This room is currently accessible to you for less than $100 for both days. But at the end of this month, pre-sale will go away. And so if you've been sitting on the fence, if you've been tuning in, if you've been watching, and if you've been wondering, that puts pressure on your ability to get in the room in the most economical way. And so I really want you to give serious consideration to being a part of Corporate to Entrepreneur Live, not because it's a deal, but because it is the space that's going to empower you to do the thing that you've been called to do. It's the space where you're going to put strategy and plan to the vision that you have to open the right business for yourself. And so if you know that you need to be in that room, then I want to invite you to take advantage of the pre-sale rates and join me in October for Corporate to Entrepreneur Live. I want to invite you to share this live stream with someone who you believe will benefit from it. I get to become a woman who helps you accelerate your success. And that for me is like fulfillment overload. And so I would love to help your dreams come alive. I would love to be a part of your journey in October at Corporate to Entrepreneur Live. So the website you need to go to is www.theceoshift.live, www.theceoshift.live, and join me in Charlotte, North Carolina. Have an amazing day.